I'm Eric Wordweaver Sjerven, Goathe of the Ridgar Folk here in East Texas, and I'd like to welcome you to the Raven's Call. This is a show where I ramble on about different heathen-related subjects, just kind of whatever strikes my fancy, sets my mind on fire at the time. Big UPG warning at the beginning of this episode, like always. These are just the views of this heathen in the East Texas area. I'm not the end-all be-all authority of anything. These are just fun videos for hopefully some educational purpose, but for the most part, just to get your mind thinking and hopefully get you thinking outside the box. So take that, everything you see here with a grain of salt. I am not any kind of Asa Pope. I am not some kind of, I don't know, super expert. I'm just me. And anyway, here we are. So before we get started, all of the standard housekeeping stuff down below. You'll find all my contact information, P.O. Box, email addresses, Facebook group. Please give me some feedback. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Back in the saddle again. I'm gonna need some recommendations, some requests, things like that. So please, by all means, jump in there. The show thrives on viewer requests. These are, this is what it's all about. So another housekeeping thing. Now, obviously today, you can see me rocking the AirPods today. Trying something a little bit different when it comes to the audio. You'll have to forgive because with the change of job situation and everything, I'm having to work where I can when I can. And out here on the property, my directional mic that I was using on the rig that I got doesn't do well in windy weather. It comes out real tinny and kind of meh. So I'm not using that one today. I'm going to experiment and try and figure out. There's a lot of things that are going to have to change with my rig. I may even end up trying to set up some kind of studio space here on the property or in the house or something. I don't know. We'll see. I have that thing where I've got a backdrop that Twyla bought me back in the day, but I haven't played with it yet. So, well, except for one time, live feed. Yeah. So, beyond that, thank you guys for your patience. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me during the last couple of months that have been absolutely ridiculous, and I have not been able to get content out like at all. For those of you that are just tuning into the channel and this is your first go, had some major upsets in my life the last couple of months. One of the major ones that's been going on is the shutdown and shuttering of my family business that's been in the family for, well, my entire life. I grew up out there. I think we took it over. I think we've had it something like 50 some odd years. The business was in business for 67 years, but my grandfather bought it way back in the day. And then my dad took it over, and then I was lined up to take it over, but funny business with a dirty accountant, and took advantage of us in a lot of ways. And then just not being able to survive COVID, things like that. It just didn't work out. So as a result, company didn't get to stay open, and we had to close her down. And here we are. So that's what has been taking the last couple of months of my attention, is working the two jobs. The second job I was only working in order to fund my ability to work at the shop during the day so that I could help try and get it on its feet. We just didn't make it. Try as we might, we fought and we didn't make it. So yeah. And you guys can go back and look at the update videos and see me breaking down the shop and everything, gutting the whole place, moving everything out. I actually took a final video on move out day, where I think it was move out day. Anyway, right around move out day, where we had it just emptied out, hollow building and stuff. Took some pictures and stuff, but I didn't put that one up because it would have been the same thing. Hey guys, thank you for being with us. I'm not done yet. We're still working on it, and it gets redundant. And honestly, I took the video and then immediately went back to work. So anyway, because of all this, I haven't had time to focus on content creation, and you guys have been amazingly understanding. In the comments on the Facebook group, you guys really have been fantastic, so thank you guys for understanding that. And we're going to get back into the saddle here. Hopefully I'll be able to churn out some decent content here over the next couple of weeks. I do not yet know what my end schedule is going to be like. I am still leveling out as far as the job thing goes, but I've had a couple of weeks now, week and a half or so, to kind of recuperate. Wow, I was tired. To recuperate some so that I'm finally able to stand up in front of a camera and not feel like a zombie. I'm still kind of squinty because, it's sun. It's cloudy today, but you know how it is with the UV radiation and everything. It's crazy. So anyway, I will have some new stuff coming out. We'll see what it's going to be. Stay tuned, and once again, thank you. I'm rambling too long on this subject, so we'll skip ahead. So for today's subject, I wanted to touch base on a viewer request that was sent in. I put a call out because I was like, hey, I'm going to get back in the saddle. Let me hear what you guys want to hear about. Let me know what you guys want me to talk about, and we'll go from there. And Stuart wrote in and was like, well, how about a video on overcoming the trials and tribulations, the bumps in the road that life throws at you from a heathen standpoint? I was like, well, okay, let's talk this out. What are we talking angle-wise and everything? And pretty much he was on the same page I was, that it was just kind of like the stuff that I've been through lately and that I know everybody else has been through, because it's ridiculous, okay? And that is just life in general throws you curveballs. And it's difficult sometimes to figure out how to go about it, how to approach it from a heathen standpoint, from the heathen worldview, because there's not a lot of precedent. You know, one of the things that he pointed out was that, you know, all of the self-help books that are out there, a lot of the, you know, kind of pop psychology stuff. Now, first off, let me start off by saying I do not advocate self-help books for the most part. I find most self-help books say the same thing. Cheap pop psychology with minimal actual value. There are good ones out there. All right, I've read and used some myself. From a psychology standpoint, I am not a fan of most of them. They're mostly cookie cutter, make a quick buck. They sell well, they look good on a grocery store aisle. People will pick it up because you can have this chicken soup for the soul kind of label on it, title, and I don't feel like most of them are of any value. Now, there are some out there that are of value. Pay attention to the alphabet soup. People with a bunch of letters behind their name may be worth looking into. It just depends. I'm not going to say that globally, because I know some people with alphabets that have no business doing what they're doing. But that's beside the point. Like everything that I say, you know, use your exercise your judgment when it comes to things like self-help books, okay? But he did point out that most of the self-help books that are out there, most of that kind of content is written either from a secular or Judeo-Christian point of view. And this is spot on, because there's not a lot of things out there to help support us in times of need when from a heathen standpoint. And it can be frustrating not to have something to go to. Not to be able to, you know, look for some kind of inspiration, something. Because most of the time, that's all self-help books are. They are recommendations on pragmatic, applicable tricks and methodologies for coping with situations. Things like deep breathing exercises, all of which are legitimate, right? These are actual tried and true techniques. It's just most of the books just regurgitate the same stuff that you could probably find for free online, just so they can make a quick buck. You know, it's all basic biofeedback stuff, cognitive behavioral aspects. There's some basic pop psychology that goes into these things, but some of them actually have valid, applicable techniques. And that's the deal, is to learn how to cope with the situations that arise, the emotions that are tied to them, and how to interrupt behavioral patterns in order to create a correction to that and build towards a more desirable future. So, you know, when we're talking about trials and tribulations, you know, you guys understand what I'm talking about. It's like, for myself, I can speak from this standpoint that within the last 2.5 years, I lost my big job with the boys' home, which you guys knew because I used to film there and everything. That was 15 years of my life, plus the 5 years of schooling prior to prepare for said life. And so 2 decades of my life up in smoke like that, poof, gone. Then, of course, during the COVID era, rigmarole, because of all the regulations and everything, I couldn't get in to see my grandmother, who died of Alzheimer's during the COVID thing. And because of stupid regulations, I didn't even get to see her for the last year of her life. It was ridiculous. Yeah, not cool. And so there's that. Then there was the shutdown of Acme, which you guys are familiar with from more recent stuff on here, plus other bumps in the road. I mean, these are all, the ones I'm listing off are like major hiccups. These are big things. But there's other small things, you know, you're going through and you're on a hard time financially, and your AC goes out, or your transmission goes out, or you got to buy a new fridge, your dishwasher is spraying water all over the kitchen floor. These things happen. And it's not one of those things that, you know, everybody wants to be like, attribute it to something. Like, I'm snake bit. It's bad luck. Not really. It's just life. That's just, these things are bound to happen eventually. It's an eventuality. It's not a luck-based thing necessarily. The only luck-based thing is kind of when it plays out. And even then, mathematically, if you boil it down, you can break down, you know, on a lot of those things when the moving parts are going to go out. We just don't have that kind of information because we don't get so granular with it. But you get the point. These things just happen. And then we have to make our way through it. And for the secular world who goes, man, I'm just on a string of bad luck, that's one thing. For heathens that view luck very differently, to say you're on a string of bad luck can suddenly bring in a whole different viewpoint of things, because you're like, well, have I offended my ancestors? Have I offended the Vatir? What have I done? What's wrong? What's going on? And the fact of the matter is, probably nothing. You probably haven't offended anybody in that way, shape, form, or fashion. You probably aren't on the outs with your Husvitir. You're probably not, you know, in the bads with your ancestors. The fact of the matter is, these things just happen. And frequently they happen in strings. It's just kind of a thing. Does it mean you're cursed? No, it doesn't necessarily mean you're cursed. It just means you're going through some stuff. Like for me, for example, the last 2.5 years would, you know, it'd be easy for me to say, well, somebody's put a curse on me, but no, that's just how things have worked out. It's unfortunate, but these are things that I've seen patterns in place for years that all just came to a head at relatively the same time. Unfortunate, yes, but not unlucky with the capital L. We're not dealing with negative luck at this point. We're just, actually, if anything, this is one of the points that I wanted to come to with dealing with it. So we've established what kind of things you can be dealing with as far as these kind of bumps in the road, trials and tribulations. So how do you deal with those kind of things? What are some practical and pragmatic ways for dealing with these kind of bumps in the road? And one of them, the first one that I would point out, is what we in the psychology world call framing. Framing, and that's what I was just doing by talking about the luck aspect, which is why I'm going to segue into it. Framing is how you literally frame the picture in your mind of what's going on. A lot of times people will create a negative frame or make some very strong assumptions about a situation that do not help you in the long run. When you're dealing with, say, the string of bad luck going along, you may look at it as like, I'm cursed, I can't do anything right, you know, this is, I'm failing, this is my bad luck, etc., etc., etc. And you create this framework around it that holds up this picture as a super negative thing, and the framing that you put around it as it goes along, how you frame the picture, actually can exacerbate the emotional problems that go along with it and the difficulty and stressors of coping with those situations. So a lot of therapy focuses on reframing. And reframing is taking that picture, stripping it down, and putting a new frame on it. For instance, one of the ways to reframe a situation like this is, like for mine, for example, when I lost Youth and Family, when I lost which was the boys' home that I worked at, they're not there anymore, so it doesn't matter. When I lost the boys' home that I worked at, and then I had my family to fall back on, I could go to the family business, and that was very strong luck on my part that I had that to support me. That's what that luck tie is about. You know, I had that strong familial luck that I was able to fall back in, and that I had the capacity to step out and find a supplementary position to help it make it work. So my luck was strong with me that I was able not only to go to the family business, but also to orient myself in such a way that I was able to continue to support myself during a point where I didn't need to be a major drain on the family business as we were trying to get it more back on its feet. Now, Admittedly, we didn't make it, but we did make it an additional year longer than we originally thought that we would. So that's a positive thing, and that's me bringing my luck in there to mesh with my father's luck and my brother's lucks, and we managed to kind of bolster it for a little bit longer, which with what we were dealing with and kind of the weight that we had over our head was holding up a juggernaut a great deal longer than we probably should have. And also in the closing down of the business, I get to realize things like, my father now gets to retire with the proceeds of the sale of the business, and he's not shabby. I mean, he'll do okay, and it's a good thing now. I'm able to reframe that in a way that's not just looking at the loss of the company, but the positives that come along from this situation, which is not always easy to do. I know that it's a fancy way of saying look on the bright side. It's not just look on the bright side. Reframing is literally reframing the camera shot and looking at things from different angles so that you can see the fullness of the picture. Look on the bright side is a phrase that I hate because while it says the same thing, it's flippant and dismissive to the negative aspects. Reframing still says, hey, look, there is a bad angle on this picture, but if we swing the camera around this way, we can get to the good side, and we can see the full thing, and we can understand better what's in the shot, and you can put things into scope, into place. And so being able to reframe that situation, I'm able to look at this whole thing and be like, well, now my dad gets to retire. He's financially stable, which I couldn't necessarily say before. And he's got his forms of income. He's got the money from the sale of the company, mom's income. They're going to be okay. And that's not something I necessarily could have said before with the weight of Acme and the debts that were piling with the business and all that. I couldn't have necessarily said that, but now I can, and that's a positive thing. That's a fantastic thing. So while, yes, it hurts to lose the company that's like another sibling to me that I grew up with my entire life, that's been, a member of my family for the 40 years that I've been here, yeah, that hurts. That sucks. It's no fun, and there's a lot of weird emotions that's tied up with it, but because of luck playing out the way that it has, because of the efforts that we've put in, because of what we did to the property, because of the hard work and efforts that we put in prior to the sale, the good weird that we have poured into this property and into this company, we were able to sell it for a decent amount. And he was actually able to come out the other side with a nice little nest egg that he can take away and hopefully do some things that he really wants to do with it. And I genuinely hope that he does. So yeah, that's a thing, it's a thing. So the framing aspect is a major thing. Now, from a heathen standpoint, luck is one of the main ways that we frame things, that we look at things from a framing element. I like to look at it from luck, but I also like to look at it from the whole we are our deeds aspect, building positive weird. We've gone through and we've done the whole ordeal breeds worth thing before. I did an entire video on that, and I thank Mike for the quote on that one. Ordeal breeds worth, and in that case, you've been through some stuff. You've got a lot of worth to show how you've dealt with it. And one of the main focuses on that video was how you deal with the ordeal that you're going through is what builds your worth on the other side. It is what tells people what you are worth and what you bring to the table. And so, bully, that's a good thing. But how do you deal with those things in the meantime? It's easy to say that, I dealt with it well, I'm on the other side. Okay, but how'd you do it? Well, okay, let's explore that a little bit deeper. A lot of people, when you bring your trials and tribulations to them, especially in the Judeo-Christian world, will be like, well, pray on it. And I'm like, well, ours doesn't work that way. But actually it can, to a certain extent, because the meat and potatoes of what gets you through these things is your luck, the strength of your luck. And your luck is fed by your deeds, your actions, and sacrifice very much deals with feeding the luck of your heart, your clan, and your tribe. And so it's not inappropriate to go and give offering in hopes that you will get a bolster to your luck and able to get through things. One of the differences, and I think this is something that is a difference in depth of understanding of approach. As generalized pagans, heathens, etc., we may have a misconception of what they mean. Like, because we may have some issues with the terminology, some baggage that's holding over, we may not want to understand, etc., but when they say they pray for something, a lot of times they pray for the help to get through it, not necessarily praying for something specific. Now, not to say that individuals don't do that, because they don't necessarily understand their own metaphysics behind the methodology of their religion. That does happen. You know, it's not like rubbing the magic lamp and wishing for something. Even among the Judeo-Christians, they're like, well, you know, you ask for assistance and then you get it how you get it, kind of thing. Sky Daddy will play out in mysterious ways, which is, yeah, okay. That's a catch-all that allows you to, you know, frame whatever you want in terms of that. And they do a lot of that. That is a framing thing. You know, it's easier to frame it out of their hands, out of their control, etc. Anyway, we're not on framing anymore. We're moving on. So, offerings are not necessarily inappropriate, though, because the way we do offerings, we give offerings to the ancestors, we give offerings to the gods, to the Vatir, all in hopes that they will feed luck back to us. We're feeding them energy, and we hope that they will feed us luck and positive interaction, positive relationships. And keeping these relationships up helps to bolster that luck as we go along, so that when these hard times come up, we are able to kind of make it through, muddle through. Things just kind of fall into place, and even though it's tough, even though it's hard, you still turn out okay in the end. For lack of a better way to phrase it, you're okay. You know, it may not be fantastic, but you're all right. You know, you've made it. You survived it. You're on the other side. So offerings are a fantastic way to do this. I do recommend keeping an ongoing relationship with the gods and goddesses. It's like giving offering to Thor when there are storms coming through. Giving an offering to Thor as storms are coming through as a way of saying, "Hail Thor, I see you in the storm. Hail, you're awesome. Here's my thanks. Here's my honoring to you. Please bless us as you go over." I mean, that's a fantastic way to do it and way to look at it. Only giving out offerings to Thor at thunderstorms in order for him to protect you from, you know, prospective damage is kind of like only calling up that friend when you need something. So keep that in mind, that you want to maintain relationships. And giving offerings on the regular allows you to keep a relationship going with the divine, with the ancestors, etc., etc. And this allows you to bolster that luck and have that network in place when things do go wrong. Now, when it comes to more of your day-to-day stuff, that's more ancestors than it is the gods and goddesses. I mean, you want to talk about crops, rain, wildfires, things like that. Yeah, totally gods, and in some instances they too. But if you want to talk about luck for jobs and luck for, you know, finding the financial ways to make it through, finding the wisdom to survive the hard times, that's more of an ancestors thing, because they have more of a vested interest in you individually making it through this than the gods do. Because the gods are interested in humanity as a whole making it through it, and you know, maybe heathens as a whole more than anybody else. And if your tribe has good relations, then, you know, bolstering a bit of that. But the day-to-day affairs, the managing of your life, that's more in the venue of your ancestors, as far as who's interested in that and who's more likely to give you the kind of support that you need. Now, you know, you're hard up, you don't have a car, you give offering to the ancestors, they're not going to just, boom, here's a car, most of the time. I have experienced and seen people experience different situations where that's exactly how it played out. Of course, it was like a $200 side of the road type, you know, hey, it works. It's not great, but it works, and here it is, and it came through a family member. So there's that. But support in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Opportunities, the luck to have the opportunities arise, and the wisdom to be able to recognize the opportunities that are there. So, you know, giving offerings to the ancestors is a fantastic way to go about it. Giving offering to the gods is a fantastic way to go about it, but these need to be maintenance things that you're doing throughout. Now, Do heathens pray? Yes, absolutely. In hard times, do I go to my grandfather? How many times did I go to my grandfather's spirit during the fall of Acme and been like, what am I doing wrong? You know, let me see what there is to see and grant me the wisdom to understand what's going on. Grant me the luck for the opportunities and the wisdom to see them when they come. New thing. Yes, let's do it. Grant me the luck for the opportunities and the wisdom to see them. Now, did my grandfather necessarily show me the way to save Acme? No. But I did learn that he had tried to sell the company ages ago, and that he had not set it up to be a multi-generational thing, and that he foresaw an end to Acme, which I did not know that. And then his intention always had been to sell the company and for Dad to go on and do something else. So it's time to sell a company for Dad to go on and do something else. Same with me. So boom, all of a sudden this wisdom from my grandfather didn't come directly from him necessarily. It came through my father, but it did come after I talked to Grandpa. So make of that what you will. But yes, seek wisdom from the ancestors. Seek luck from the ancestors and from the gods. Fantastic ways to go about it. Tribe. You know, you hear me talk about tribe all the time. And I'm a tribal heathen. That is my approach. You know, some people have called me Theodish adjacent. Whatever, I don't care. I'm not Folkish. I'm not Theodish. I am not technically Universalist. I'm somewhere in the middle of things. The only thing that I really adhere to is that I am tribal in my approach. I mean, if I had to break down what is my type of heathenry, I am Rithgar and heathenry. We are Rithgars, heathenry. We are Rithgar and heathenry. And there's a strong tribal element to that, as you guys well know from following the channel. I prioritize hearth, clan, and then tribe. That is my order of operations. That is my order of priorities. Hearth, clan, then tribe. That is the level of my obligations, my level of prioritization of those obligations. So I look to those during those times when I need it. It's difficult, especially, you know, men in general have a hard time in the modern era because there's not a lot of support for mental health. There's not a lot of support for guys who are on hard times. There's just not. We're expected to man up, we're expected to deal with it, we're expected to muscle through and just handle it. What is the one guy's, like, if you talk to a guy, the two things they are more than likely going to say when you ask them, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine, I'm all right, doing okay. You know, I need you to do this, this, and this. When it's this piled onto a hill that's already this big, I'll handle it. I'll handle it. Don't worry about how, I'll handle it. Because they don't know how. They don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to make it work. They're going to magic that shit through, and they don't understand what they're going to do, how to do it. Not to say that women don't go through the same thing. I'm just saying there is a large proportion of attention that's given to men's mental health right now, which is a good thing, and I want to see that that continues to do. But mental health in general needs to be approached, and from a heathen standpoint, there's not a lot of support for heathens in general, male and female, as to how to go about handling these things. So tribe is a major point of support. Now, if you don't have, say, a tribe or a kindred or something like that, you do have your people. You have those people that are built up around you. Whether or not you recognize who they are, that's a different story, but you will have built some kind of social structure around you. Friends, family, that cousin that is the one that you go to all the time, that you laugh with, that you shoot memes with, or a series of friends that you may have at arm's reach and be too afraid to become true, deep friends with because of insecurity issues and other psychological trauma that may be, you know, keeping them at bay. There may be a time where you need to bridge that gap a little bit and connect. Human beings are social creatures. We are built by the gods to have social interaction. We are built to be tribal. It's our nature. It's what we do. If you take human beings, and this is psychology 101, we do these experiments, and if you take a large group of people and you shove them into a room together, they will develop cliques, they will develop a social structure, they will develop a leadership chain instantaneously. They'll mill around, and within an hour, you have got a clearly defined tribal social structure within this environment. It just happens organically, especially if you apply a little bit of pressure, like a task. If you put a bunch of people in there, you have them split up into teams and complete a task, all of this will set up. Even if you don't make them split up into teams, they're going to naturally congregate into tribes of differing sizes and shapes, depending on the needs and social comfort of the individuals in play. So, yeah, we're social creatures. We're meant to have this social interaction. And even if you are a severe introvert, you still need that one person, that maybe just one, that you can go to and share and talk to. Trust me, from the realm of psychology, yes, you need this. Social structure is one of the absolute primary support structures for individuals with depression or individuals that are going through traumatic situations, that are undergoing extreme stress. The support structure, the social structure around them, is one of the first things that a therapist will look at. Do you have a strong support structure around you? If you do not, that red flags you for serious self-injury and things like that. So simply because you don't have that outlet, and without that outlet, it has nowhere to go but in here. It needs to get out. It needs to come out. That's a big thing. So yes, anyway, this is something I could talk on for a long time, and I'm trying not to make this an hour-long video. I'm trying to keep it more towards the 30 to 45 minute, and we're already at 30 minutes of actual content time. So keeping going. Use your social structure, use your tribe, use your hearth, use your clan, whoever it is that are your people. No judgment on who they are. I don't care if they're heathen. I don't care if they completely understand your religion or your viewpoints. I don't care. That's not the point. This isn't about religion. This is about getting through the tough times and doing what you need to do. And talking to someone is one of those things that, trust me, you need to do if you can. And it's not always easy. A lot of times you just want to, I'll handle it, you know? That's what you do. I'll handle it. Talk to somebody if you can. Not always easy, I get it, but highly urge. Journaling is a fantastic thing, but that's just a standard therapy thing. That's not necessarily a heathen thing. Interacting with the gods, spending time with the Vatir, spending time with the ancestors also gives you a boost of serotonin, which helps to kind of, and norepinephrine, but helps to kind of reinforce positive mood dynamics, which will then in turn help you positively deal with the stressors that are going on through your life. I highly recommend Sumble. Sumble is therapy for heathens. If you are going through stuff, sit and stumble with your tribe, with your kindred, with whoever. Bare your soul to the people. I mean, this is, again, that talking to people, supporting your tribe. I cannot tell you the number of times that I have sat and broke down in Sumble, and it changed everything for me afterwards, because I was able to finally get all that out in a safe space, and it was ritualized, it was in the well, it was good, it was positive, and it fed everything. Yeah, it was amazing. I had one of my dear friends just go through a similar situation, and in Sumble, broke it down, and since then he's had some other stuff that he's going to have to do as well. So once again, I have a feeling we're going to have another heartfelt night around the horn here before too long. So that's all in the social structure side of things. Now, there are other things that you can do that are just standard therapy things, as far as, you know, finding activities that keep you busy, that help to vent a little bit of that stress and everything, but still, they're good. And this is part of the problem with writing if someone was to sit and write a heathen self-help book. I mean, you could give a generalized heathen veneer to a lot of the basic psychological stuff, but most of the psychological things that you do to deal with trauma in day-to-day life are secular. They're scientific, they're psychological. It's not necessarily from a heathen standpoint. Most of that is framing. Most of that is looking to the ancestors and the gods and goddesses. That's the religious side of things. And so that's pretty quick and easy to look at. But, you know, recognizing your social structure and how your social structure differs from others, understanding how your view of weird and orlog and luck differs from others, allows you to frame things better and to better be able to make the choices that you need to make. You know, we talk a lot about we are our deeds. Action is better than inaction, that kind of thing. The actions that you take are built on the framework that you frame everything around. So you try to make the best decisions that you can, and then you go from there. I have one of the things that I do that helps to support me is a sacred oath. You know, I've made a sacred oath to my gods. I won't say specifically which one, out of honor to the oath itself. But I have an emblem that I wear beneath my shirt that is next to my heart that I wear all the time. And it's on this emblem that I swore my oath to see to the safety, sovereignty, and well-being of my hearth, my clan, and my tribe. And making that oath allows me to go through and it's to the best of my ability, obviously, at this part of the verbiage as well. There's more to the verbiage, but that's the breakdown part of it. And the idea behind it is that it helps me deal with things. It really does, because it means that when things get rough, I can look at a situation and be like, okay, well, I'm torn. Where do I go from here? Well, all right, according to the oath, I need to see to the well-being of the safety, sovereignty, and well-being of my hearth, my clan, and my tribe. So, you know, where does this fall with safety to my hearth? Safety of my clan, safety of my tribe, well-being, sovereignty, all of this. And then it helps me to frame my decision-making based on that going forward. So that is a helpful thing. It also serves as a stopgap for other negative aspects of certain psychological phenomena. If you paid attention to the channel, you probably understand what I'm talking about. Yeah, it helps when, you know, faced with down moments where everything is too much and the weight is just too much, to be able to look at the oath and be able to say, no, that would not be in the best interest of my hearth, my clan, and my tribe. Yeah, I mean, you can look at a decision that you would make, and the outcome of it would be severely damaging to your hearth, your clan, and your tribe. And, you know, the oath helps to kind of correct that, because you don't want to break the oath. It means too much, especially when breaking the oath would negatively impact the hearth, clan, and the tribe. Get where I'm going with this? You know, it's a thing. The oath is sacred. It's a psychological trick, yes, but it's one I'm willfully engaged in, and therefore carries more weight and is positive in my eyes. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up. We've gone long enough on this. I can come back and visit this again later, but if that's something that you guys are interested in. For the first one, back in the saddle, I'm rusty, so I apologize. That's kind of why I went with this one. It's fresh on my mind, and it gives me a chance to kind of delve into some things, both from the psychology side of things and from the heathen side of things. So I figured it was a good way to get my feet wet again. So anyway, thank you guys. Please keep writing in. I will follow up on some. That thread gave me some really good ideas that I'm going to follow up on. Please continue to feed me ideas, and I will build them out into shows. Ask questions that you might have questions about answers to. I will answer and field them as I go along and figure it out. I know I have not been fantastic about feedback to people up to this point, as far as interaction online. I think looking at the last couple of years, you guys will understand why that has been a difficulty for me, and I hope you will give me a chance to kind of correct some of that going forward. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. So hang in there with me. Thank you guys. Hail to you all, and may your hearth fires burn bright. All right, so blooper reel. I don't have much for you guys today because I jumped in and did the intro first and then jumped all to this stuff because I'm super rusty. And as a result, I don't have my stuff together. But D&D has been awesome. We've been doing some fantastic stuff. I had, my team has been doing some great adventuring. We went through and I had them fight. Let me see, they went over and my froggy went a courting. Yeah, they went and fought some Hezro, and series of Banderhogs. They don't understand why those things are together, but they are together in this particular area. And the adventure was crazy. They did some really good stuff as far as just in general beginning to learn to work as a team. The cleric almost died. So they started to think more about team building, theory crafting as far as, you know, strategy going in. And nothing, if you ever want to teach your team to start to think like a team, take out the healer. All right? It's super easy to throw them against mindless beasts that fight and will rampage against everything. Throw them against something smart and target the healer. They will learn real quick. They will begin to figure it out, or at least they're intended to learn real quick. Then I had them go up against another enemy shortly thereafter, and they had a hard time again. The healer, this last time, I really kind of drove it home because they almost TPK'd. They almost TPK'd. They were up against a homebrewed creature. It was a variation on a wood-woad, but one that I amped up, partially because of the size of my party, partially because of story-related things. And oh man, my team went in there, and after they went through the hedge maze that I built, which was really cool, I used Incarnate to build a hedge maze and walked them through it using the Fog of War on Owlbear Rodeo, and had a blast. Oh, they had so much fun going through this. Instead of having set things in the maze for them to run into, encounters and stuff like that, what I did was I created a system of you know, a D20 basically. I made 20 different options, kind of blocks of 5 and stuff. Some of them were encounters. Most of them were things like vines lashing out at them, the ground opening up into a 20-foot drop, poison needles shooting out from the sides, the walls closing in and boxing them in, all these kind of things, you know, a bunch of dungeon-y tropes, right? And so I throw all this onto a list, and then I pull my phone out and set a timer. And I didn't tell them why I was setting the timer. And then the timer would go and go and go, and then all of a sudden the alarm would go off, and I'd roll a D20. I let them finish whatever they were saying, and then boom, whatever happened, happened. The floor opens up. Make a dex check, you know. Do you save your butt, or do you fall and take 20 foot of falling damage? So they weren't in great condition when they got towards the end of the maze. I did give them a chance to rest up a little bit, you know, short rest, burn some hit die in order to recuperate. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. And then you've got the tension of they don't really know where the timer's at. They don't know what the timer's set at. And then they don't know what all's on the list, but they know whenever that sound goes off that something bad's about to happen. And then if you kind of alter the interval based on kind of what's going on, like I would alter the interval. Sometimes it would be 3 minutes, sometimes it would be 5 minutes. Sometimes it would be 5 minutes and then I'd hold off a little bit. Just depended on what was going on in the dungeon. I read the room and went with it from there. A lot of fun, a lot of fun. It took us 2 full sessions to get through the maze. And then we get to the end and they had the boss battle with my Twisted Woodwoad, which they haven't found out all of the reasonings behind, so I'm not going to share on the channel yet. But there is the magical items that they are hunting. And sorry, I'm flashing back to the session. One of these days I would have to actually sit down and like break out the lore of my world to you. But there are these magic items, the pieces of the 12 that they have to find. And this piece of the 12 was tied to the baddie that they were fighting, as Woodwood, in ways that they will discover in game here coming up. And so they're going through and they're fighting, and you know, I've jacked this guy up pretty good to be a challenge to them. I wanted it to be a deadly encounter for this group, and it was, because he had an AoE effect that balancing wise I think I see a tweak on that probably should be put into effect in order to limit that creature a little bit. The way that it's set up currently is a little OP, and I had to manually pull back a little bit of it, but not too much. So it's not massively, but there is a mechanic I think needs a limiter on it. And so maybe not though, because the damage on it's really low. So it's AoE, but it's kind of a low damage AoE, not like a Dragon's Breath, but it has a Dragon's Breath. It's like a 60-foot cone, but the most damage that it can do is like 18, I think. It's not very much, comparatively speaking, for mid to higher level, characters. I mean, my team was like level 5 at the time. So, which is still technically a low level character, but 18 damage isn't going to like kill anybody in the party at this point. So yeah, they go up against this, but the character is smart. And so in all of this, he's taken out the cleric, and the cleric is down making death saves. And so the party, wisening up to this, begins to try to res the healer. And so they're all running around trying to res the healer. And, so they get in there, heal, medicine check to stabilize, all this stuff. And then the baddie will pivot and hit with that AoE. And he's got legendary attacks, so he's hitting with that AoE a little more frequently than what they're ready for. And the AoE always encompasses the cleric. So it's a battle just to keep the cleric stable so the cleric doesn't go down, like permanent. And so yeah, it was fun to watch. Now, of course, the battle ends, and they didn't even realize they were like one round away from killing this woodward. They were right there. And my rogue, Odd, decides that he's going to pull out the piece of the 12 that's tied to this creature, and it immediately has an effect. Immediately, then the creature goes down to his knees. It's the power is thrumming and reacting in the area around him, is overwhelmed. He manages to touch him with the piece, and it just kind of dissolves him, and he goes back, and the guy that was in the center of it is laying there, kind of old werewolf style. And then story stuff plays out, which I'm not going to share. Not yet, anyway. I've got more permission from my players, but it was cool. It was awesome, and I wasn't expecting to actually pull that piece out, so I had to create that bit of narrative on the fly there. I had some theories as to how I would handle it if this came into play, but I did not foresee him on the last round of combat whipping this thing out and giving me a wonderful narrative out for this battle that they've legit won at this point. So I was like, yes, I couldn't have asked for better. This is fantastic. I just got a freaking storybook ending to this combat, and I love it. They got the legit battle. They got owned. They almost TPK'd because the AoE kept knocking them down, and they couldn't do the damage because they were too busy trying to figure out how to manage the cleric, and he had resistances and all this other stuff. And then he gives me the storybook. Yes. Oh man, that was cool. That was cool. As a DM, that was like, oh, I get to do this cool thing. Thank you, player. You are awesome. So thank you, Brandon. You are awesome. That was wicked. So anyway, I'm going to sign off and do the editing and stuff on this later. So this will be up whenever I can get it out. Hail to you all. Laters. Or should I say, let's go to the thing. I don't know. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Deuces.